Hello friends, welcome back to this channel. So, in previous video we show, what is remote state in Terraform and how to use it. Now, in this session, I am going to give you a command overview. So without further ado, let's get start the session. Terraform is very much focused on the resource definitions. But, as we all know, it has limited tools that are available to modify, import and create those resource definitions. Still, every new release, there are new features coming out to make it easier to handle your resources. For example, today, there is still no good tool to import your non-Terraform maintained infrastructure and create the definitions for you. There is an external tool called Terraforming that you can use for now, but it will take you quite some time to convert your current infrastructure to manage the Terraform infrastructure. So, there are external tools available, but they are still not good enough. It still takes you a long time if you already have infrastructure to convert it to Terraform managed infrastructure. Now guys, let's go over some Terraform commands that you can use. First of all, Terraform apply. Just applies the state. You should already know this one, I have already used this a lot of times. Terraform Destroy. It destroys all Terraform managed states, so, use this with caution, because you might have a development Terraform and a production Terraform, and you wouldn't be the first person to do a Terraform Destroy on their own environment. Terraform FMT. Used to rewrites Terraform configuration files to a canonical format and style. It basically formats your code nicely. So, typically you use these commands before committing your changes to make sure that the formatting is correct. Then, get. It used to downloads and updates the modules. You can use Terraform Graph to create a visual representation of a configuration or execution plan. So, if you have lots of Terraform files, you can use Terraform Graph to create just a graphical representation that you can use. This one is very handy, Terraform Import Address ID. Import will try to find the infrastructure resource identified with ID and import a state into terraform.tf state with resource ID address. This means that, if you have an instance running, but you don't have Terraform yet, then, you can import the state using imports, Terraform import. Then the address, which is going to be research definition that you first have to run it, and then the ID. So, if it's an instance on AWS, then it will be the ID of an instance. You will see it in the documentation of Terraform that at the bottom, there's always an import example. For whatever resource you want to add, the ID will be different. If one uses commands to update your Terraform TF state with already state that exist on your infrastructure, then just have a look at the documentation at the bottom. You will find the way that you can use this. If you're just creating new infrastructure, you don't need to use this. This is only when you already have existing infrastructure. And the big downside, of course, is that you have to manually still write your resource definitions. It's only to import a state. Now, if you want to output any of your resources, you can use Terraform Output. Using name will only output a specific resource. This is very useful if you want to output something. Terraform Plan. I already used it as well. It shows changes to be made to the infrastructure. Then, Push. We haven't used and I'm not going to use. There's another tool called Atlas. HashiCorp's enterprise tool that can automatically run Terraform from a centralized server. And if you use Push, then you can push your changes to Atlas. Next, Refresh. It refreshes the remote state, which can identify differences between the state file and remote state. So, if you think of differences, you just run Terraform refresh, and it is going to compare your TF state file within the remote infrastructure. We can use the Terraform remote to configure our remote state storage. If you want to store your state in S3, then you can use this. Terraform Show. Shows a human-readable output from a state or a plan. Don't worry, I'll show you the demo, just how it looks like. Then you can use Terraform State. You can use this command for advanced state management. So, for instance, to rename a resource, and you can use Terraform State Move, and then you can rename a resource that is called instance example to instance production. So, if you make changes to your state and you want to then rename something, then you are going to have to use this one. Now, taint. It manually marks a resource that is tainted, meaning it will be destructed and recreated at the next apply. So, if something is wrong with resource, and you want to recreate it, then you can use Terraform taint. Validate. Validate just validates your Terraform syntax. And untaint. So if you do a taint, and you want to undo it, then you can do untaint. And this will not change anything to the infrastructure. It is just going to mark it untaint. Now, let's see some useful Terraform commands. So as you can see, I am in my demo3 directory. So here I already did Terraform apply. So I have some running infrastructure. And now what I want to show you is just a few useful commands that you will be able to use during the next demos. So this infrastructure is now running and I have my terraform.tf state file. Now here, you can read this JSON. But if you want to get this in a more readable format, then you can use Terraform Show. And then you just get everything that is set up for you. Now, if you need anything like public IP, for instance, show, you are going to say Terraform Show, and I want to see all the public IP addresses, so I can say grep public IP. And then it will show you the public IP. Now, typically, you're going to use something like outputs, like I showed you earlier. Output, my output, is AWS instance.example.public IP. Then what you going to do is, if you want to know again the output, then you are just going to type Terraform Output. And then it's going to show you these values. So, obviously it's easier to read the output when you have the output defined. Then we have taint. So, in this file we have our instance.tf file. I have an instance here, AWS example instance. Now let's say that I know that there's something wrong with it, and I wanted to have it recreate it. So now, if I do Terraform plan, then it is going to compare the remote state with my local state, and it says there's nothing to do. So, it is not going to recreate this AWS instance. But I wanted to recreate it. So now, what we are going to is, we are going to use Terraform taint. And then, AWS instance.example. Then it's going to say, the resource AWS instance.example, in the module root, has been marked as tainted. So now, if I do Terraform plan, it is going to say that I wants to recreate this AWS instance. So, here it's going to create a new instance, because it is taint. Now first of all, I'm just going to untaint it, which is also possible. So now, it's not going to be tainted anymore. Now, I'm going to show you a graph. So you can use Terraform Graph. And this is going to generate a graph. You can even generate a nice PNG using tools that can interpret this to help. You see the graph output in dot format, and there is software that can put it in a nice graph. You can also just read it like yourself, it's not that difficult to read. Now, if you want to refresh the remote state, Terraform refresh. It's just going to take a look at the remote state and at our Terraform remote state locally. It doesn't find any discrepancies. So, this is what refreshing state does. And that's it from my side, okay? So guys, that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. I will see you in the next lecture. If you have any question or any doubt, feel free to ask in the comment section below. I will answer you as soon as I can. Thank you for watching. Bye and have a nice day.